Greetings and welcome to America in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, Vice President of News and Content at the Franklin News Foundation, publisher of the Center Square Newswire service. Joining me again today is the Center Square's Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief, Casey Harper. Casey, how are you?
Doing good, Dan. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you. We are recording this on Friday, December 1st. Casey, new evidence was released this week in the U.S. House investigation into Biden family business dealings, with House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer releasing email communications showing that a bank investigator raised concerns about Hunter Biden's overseas deals with a China-linked company. You wrote about it at thecentersquare.com. Tell us more.
Yeah, that's right. So this investigation is just a steady drip of evidence that has been really interesting and probably a nightmare for the White House. But so Comer, James Comer, who leads the House Oversight Committee, he sent out all these subpoenas, and he's starting to get some information back on those. As one of those is the email that you referenced, and I saw a copy of the email. It's very interesting. Basically, a bank investigator whose name is redacted in the email, but they did an analysis, I believe, of some of the bank's more questionable accounts and maybe some other things as well. But they definitely flagged these Biden family deals and money that was being shuffled around as questionable, and actually recommended that the bank not do business with the Biden family because it was so suspicious. And so, in particular, there was a $5 million funding from a company called Northern International Capital Holdings, which is connected to this, basically to the Chinese Communist Party through an energy company. And there's like all these payments moving around to Hudson West, who's Hunter Biden's, contact, the Chinese national who he's working with, as well as a company owned by Hunter Biden. And so, just your average everyday bank investigator said, hey, this is very suspicious. It was Chinese national, Hunter Biden. We know that China tries to take advantage of the children of, very prominent, powerful Americans as a way to gain leverage over them. And he recommended that they not do business because of how questionable this was. Now, of course, this is coming after, we know, Dan, we've seen copies of two checks that went to President Joe Biden himself, totaling $240,000. That's been a big question mark in this whole investigation is, okay, yes, Hunter Biden was maybe a little shady. That's probably not hard to believe, but was the president himself directly involved, and did he benefit? Now, the first step in evidence in that was that the president himself, according to witnesses, was on some phone calls with Hunter Biden and his clients, which maybe helped Hunter land some clients. It's like, okay, that does seem like some involvement. But now we have these checks, which seem to suggest, and Comer himself alleges, that the president received hundreds of thousands of dollars of payments through this scheme. One of those payments being this $5 million from this Chinese-linked company that then filtered down to a check to the president himself.
Quoting directly from your story here, Casey, a copy of the email published online appears to show that the bank investigator was concerned about China's habit of targeting, quote, the children of politicians to purchase political influence through sweetheart deals, unquote. There's a lot of smoke here, isn't there?
Yes. Could Hunter Biden ever have gotten these kinds of deals, the position on the board of Burisma, if his last name wasn't Biden? And that is a good question, but even more than that, because plenty of people use their last name to try to get some kind of deals, but was the president himself directly implicated? I want to kind of take through a quick timeline that was released by the Oversight Committee to kind of show maybe how this money was moved around. It's a little detailed, but I'll try to go through quickly. So this is from the committee. So this started in 2017. So on August 8th, this Chinese-linked company sent $5 million to Hunter Biden's business partner, whose name's Hudson West. The third is a Chinese national. The same day, Hudson West sent $400,000 to Hunter Biden's company. And then a week later, August 14th, Hunter Biden took $150,000 of that money and sent it to a thing called Lion Hall Group LLC, a company owned by James and Sarah Biden, which is the president's brother and sister-in-law. And then by the end of the month, Sarah Biden wrote, withdrew $50,000 in cash and then deposited the money in her and her husband's personal checking account on the same day. And then September 3rd, she wrote a check to Joe Biden for $40,000 for, quote, loan repayment. That's all within a few days, really within 30 days, it looks like, that the money went from Chinese-linked company to Hunter Biden and his Chinese national partner, and then funneled through to a Biden family member and to the president himself. That's based on the transactions that the Oversight Committee has access to through their subpoenas and things. They released some bank records, but I don't know, Dan. I mean, that's the first that we've really reported and seen such a line-by-line explanation of what exactly was going on here.
And all this money, all these transactions you talked about, the money involved in that transactions, it all originated from a Chinese company.
Yeah, I mean, basically, right.
Interesting. It seems like every week, Casey, new evidence comes out about it. I mean, where is the House Oversight Committee with this investigation? Are we expecting, anything formal happening soon, or is this just going to continue to be a slow leak of evidence well into next year?
I think it's going to be that slow leak. I think there's some politics going on here. They want this slow leak to go into the election cycle. But remember, this is part of an impeachment inquiry. So I think they're ultimately trying to build enough evidence to file this, some kind of articles of impeachment against the president. But I think strategically, maybe that's not the best move for them, because as soon as they file the articles and Biden is, acquitted, which is very possible, it can kind of in the story. It's saying any evidence after that, you can say, okay, we already dealt with this. Like, why are you guys still digging this up? The president was acquitted. But until they actually have the vote, and as long as it's still an impeachment inquiry, you can still say, hey, we're gathering evidence, and it's more political operation, because whether the president is guilty or not might honestly have no bearing on whether or not he gets impeached.
Hunter Biden has requested to testify publicly before this committee, not behind closed doors. Just briefly catch us up on that.
Yeah, so Hunter Biden received a subpoena and to do a private deposition, and via his lawyer, he said, hey, you guys have been distorting these private depositions. I don't want to do it. I want to testify publicly before Congress. And, that was very surprising. It's really broke some news. And so I think lawmakers were a little taken aback, but they said, well, you're still going to be deposed privately, but you can have your day in public as well. So, and just to clarify that, Northern International Capital Holdings is linked to a Chinese energy company. I'm not sure it's quite accurate to say that it is a Chinese company, but it has a relationship to the Chinese linked energy company.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you for clarifying that, Casey. I know you're going to continue to cover this story. Listeners can keep up on the ongoing investigation at thecentersquare.com, but we are out of time. For Casey Harper, I'm Dan McCaleb. Please subscribe. Thank you for listening.
Knowledge is power, and you deserve to know what happens in your state government. That's why the nonprofit Franklin News Foundation is bringing you straight news journalism through the Center Square, reporting on state authorities and publishing stories that show where your money goes and who spends it. By supporting the Center Square, you can track politicians' use of taxpayer money and demand transparency from elected officials. This is how we can equip everyday Americans to hold their government accountable. Become a supporter of Franklin today at franklinnews.org/donate.